Okay, so these are the things that we will be talking in the training program. One is, first we'll talk about the DevOps. What are the roles and responsibilities DevOps play in the organization, and why DevOps has become such an important function within the organization. Then, about DevOps, what kind of problems that you face if you do not have DevOps mindset, and how DevOps can provide a solution to that. Then we'll talk about transitioning into DevOps mindset. So DevOps, I'm not sure how much you know about DevOps, but DevOps, historically, we never had earlier kind of DevOps mindset. And DevOps itself is a new term. Just about 6, 7 years back, some of the product companies like Apple and others, they felt that we need to have the DevOps mindset. That means the faster deployment or the faster time to market. How quickly can we deploy the application to our customers and all that. So then they felt that today's setup that we have, where someone is like a developer, someone is a tester, and another team is maybe operations, that is not working well. And we need to actually think about how do we own everything end to end. And that's when DevOps was coined. That DevOps means end-to-end responsibilities from dev to testing to operations, and that's what the DevOps means. Thinking like working as a team, right? One team owning end-to-end, responsibilities, starting from development to testing to deploying the application all the way to production, and ensuring that the application is available and have really good performance, for our customers. So we'll talk about that. It's more of a transition. A lot of companies or product-based companies are also going through that transition, where moving from a typical IT background to more like DevOps enable organization. So we'll talk about that as well, like how does it help the organization achieve that. And as a result, because of this transition, there is a lot of demand for DevOps in the market now. Most of the product companies are looking for DevOps engineers, just because everyone is trying to move into DevOps mindset. And then we'll talk about what kind of skills, what kind of tools and technologies that you need to have, the knowledge that you need to have. And that's what we are going to focus more on. Learning all these latest tools and technologies which comes under kind of DevOps responsibilities. Okay, so I have few slides where I'll be talking about that. First one, AWS, and I have AWS separate one, but kind of very high level basics of AWS infrastructure. So AWS provides the infrastructure in the cloud. You might have probably heard about cloud computing. AWS kind of is a translation of cloud today, although there are many service providers, Azure and some of the others like Rackspace and all, but AWS is still the leader. So we will be in fact provisioning our Linux host in AWS, and we'll be using that for all our training learning purpose. Then we'll also talk about something called Elastic IP. Again, I have a detailed slide about AWS. But Elastic IP helps you configure or helps you assign a public IP permanently to your instance, the instance that you are going to create in AWS, which is the Linux host that we are going to provision. Also, we'll talk a lot, spend a good amount of time learning about Linux system administration, because that's the fundamental of the internet world to work, and also for DevOps engineers, right? Most of the servers throughout the world runs on Linux today. There are still other operating systems, but Linux still leads the market. Then we'll move on to learning, tools and technologies. So DNS is one that we will be learning. DNS is the domain name service, which helps us convert the domain name to the IP address. And the reason why DNS is needed is for us, we type the domain name in the web browser, and that gets converted to an IP address by DNS. And the reason is, for two computers to communicate, they need to know the IP address of the destination server, right? They cannot understand the domain name. So there has to be someone in between us and the computers who can translate, who can take the request from us and then translate that into what is the IP address for this particular domain name. So that's where we use DNS. If you try to understand, DNS is the fundamental of internet, right? If you do not have DNS, it's very difficult to operate actually. For example, if you have to type instead of google.com, if you have to type say 1.2.3.4, right? It's very difficult to remember. 1.2.3.4 is just an example, but IP address is like really difficult to remember all the IP addresses. Okay, moving on to the next one. We will talk about Apache Web Server, web server will be in fact installing both DNS and Apache. We will actually simulate the production instance, like how it works in real life. So we'll do the installation and configuration of both these tools. Moving on to the next one, these are the topics on the automation side. The build under build and release, we'll have Git, GitHub, and Jenkins. So these tools, especially Git and GitHub, are known for the version control system. So we will learn that as well. We'll install and configure it, and then we'll use Jenkins, which is used for the build and release purpose, or more of a CI/CD. You might have heard about maybe CI/CD a lot. I mean, this is again another buzzword that everyone is talking about. Then we'll move on to the shell scripting, which helps you automate anything actually. This is one of the required skills for any successful DevOps engineers to have. So shell scripting, again, we'll spend a good amount of time on that as well. Then about Puppet and Chef, these are the tools for the infrastructure configuration. We will learn both of these. Both of these have similar capabilities, which helps you configure your infrastructure, but we'll learn both of these. Then about all the packages that we are going to install. We will be using these tools like Yum and RPM, which is inbuilt tool on Linux, but we'll learn more about that as well. How do we configure? How do we have our own Yum repositories and all that? RPM is the Red Hat package manager, which again helps you install any packages on your Linux operating system. Then this is my last slide about monitoring and alerting using Nagios. So we will be installing, in fact, Nagios as the monitoring tool. And using that, you'll be able to figure out if there is a problem with any particular service or if it is down. It sends you an alert by email. So, and then you can take some action. Then performance tuning and troubleshooting skills, again, must to have skills for any DevOps engineers. Troubleshooting skills, like, this is especially when suppose one of the services are down and you need to troubleshoot and fix the problem, right? So you need to have that skills developed, like, how do you approach a particular problem? So that's about troubleshooting skills. And then about performance tuning is, how do you get maximum performance out of whatever setup that you have, right? How do you fine tune your setup so that, the performance is good? And again, the end goal is to make your customers happy, right? Then finally, about task scheduling using cron job. So cron job is a tool, again, inbuilt tool on Linux operating system, which helps you schedule any task. So if you have to take a backup, say Friday 3 a.m., right? You can write a script and you can schedule that script to run at 3 a.m. on every Friday. And that helps you, again, kind of schedule any task at any given point of time. Then about the duration, these are some of the FAQs. The total duration of this program is about 4 to 5 weeks, and the session will have every Monday to Friday, 1 hour every day. You will also have training videos available, which will be shared just after the training through the Google Drive. Also about how I conduct these sessions is that I pass the control to you, and you share your screen and you become the presenter basically. So it's a lot of lab exercises, a lot of hands-on actually during the training. And my understanding is that if you do it yourself, you learn something faster. So that's where my focus will be, to give you control and you do it on your own. Okay. So that's about it from my side. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.